So welcome back. This is week 2, and actually I've recorded about maybe 3 videos this week, all with the intention of putting them up and having them be a little bit about the beginning of week 2 and the end of week 2. And I realized that I was actually being a little too self-conscious every single time I was making the video and not just conversing. I was doing a lot of and a lot of fixing my hair and things like that. So I have a little sticky over my face as I'm recording this so that I don't pay attention to that and I actually pay attention to what I really want to talk about. I'm a lot better when I'm actually just in conversation mode. So week 2, I started it off actually saying, wanting to talk about self-care and asking for help. And those are actually 2 very separate topics for me and about the bar exam itself. This week has definitely been a little, well, more so last week actually, being lessons in self-care because of the turmoil that my family was going under and actually some new stuff that's sort of come up this week. I've had to focus a lot on taking care of myself and taking care of the people that are important to me, and not taking care of them to the detriment of the bar exam, but as a means of balancing the bar exam. I've been studying about 10 to 12 hours a week. I'm sorry, not a week, a day. And that requires a lot of balance, and that requires me to be very cognizant of what it is I'm sort of giving up in the process. And I know from my past experience with the bar that if I feel like I'm giving up something, then I'm not going to follow through with it. It's going to feel too much like self-sacrifice. And while the bar exam does sort of do that, it is a temporary process, as one of my loved ones is very fond of reminding me that this is temporary. So I've been focusing a lot on self-care, trying to eat well, trying to keep myself hydrated, trying to get enough sleep, trying to meditate, take a little bit of time out just to kind of center myself and let go of the expectations. And I'm finding actually toward the end of the week that now that's starting to finally balance itself out and be a little bit more predictable and helpful for me. And in trying to balance myself out, I was having a lot of trouble sleeping earlier this week. I don't know if it was necessarily bar exam related, but it was definitely affecting how I was studying for the bar exam. I was feeling very overwhelmed and very lost as to what I was going to do. So this sort of dovetails into my next topic about asking for help. That is certainly something I did not do both times that I took the bar exam before. I did not ask for help. I did not ask for help from friends. I didn't ask for help from family. I didn't ask for help from the law school staff. And I'm very, very lucky that I am the alum of a law school that has a very powerful program put together to help us achieve on the bar exam. On top of that, not only does my program have that kind of support, but I think that support can be found anywhere. Whether it's former attorneys who have gone, or not former attorneys, but attorneys who have gone through this before, especially recently, and can certainly sympathize with where you are. I made an appointment with one of these coaches this week because I was feeling so overwhelmed. If you are taking any of the commercial courses, they usually have an assignment component. So there's a list of things that they recommend that you do every single day. Well, I'm behind on that list. And I use the air quotes because I'm not really behind, because a lot of those things are very difficult to sort of slog through, and to expect you to do not only just 2 essays a day, but 2 sets of practice questions per day, plus read, plus attend the lectures, plus do this or that. Well, then I would never see my family, ever, ever, ever. So because balance is important to me, and because my stress reactions both times on the bar exam were actually very divergent. The first time I was so stressed out that, it was hurting my body, it was hurting my ability to think, it was literally almost killing me. and hurting my pregnancy at the same time, because I remember I was 5 months pregnant. The second time around when I took it, my stress reaction was almost completely the opposite, in that I burrowed myself in self-denial. And I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Not self-denial, I burrowed myself in denial. So I was not really, I was so overstressed that I wasn't putting emphasis on anything. It was just sort of there, and I was living with it, but I wasn't really acknowledging or making any priorities in terms of the bar exam or my master's program or whatever else. So long story short, neither of those times did I ask for help. I might have asked for help from my husband. I might have asked for help from a few family members here and there, or a specific friend. But I did not ask for help all around, much less asking for help from people that have done this before and who understand what it is that I'm facing and going through. The appointment was very, very helpful. I ended up coming up with a schedule that I think is actually going to work for me. It kind of breaks things down into modules instead of every single morning I'm doing practice questions and every single afternoon I'm reading, or every single evening I'm doing this. It allows me to sort of pick and choose and mix it up a little bit, because I really, really do not like routine. And if I get stuck in a routine, then I start to resent the routine and then not do the routine and whatever else. So if I know that there's a certain amount of work that has to be done in a given week, in terms of I need to be doing 2 practice questions per day, 2 practice essays per day, and 1 PT per week or something like that, then I can sort of insert those in the time slots and the days that make sense to me and make the most amount of sense to me. So asking for help was very, very helpful. She was very sympathetic to sort of what I'm having to deal with family right now. And what she calls the fortress of selfishness that I should probably be constructing around me. I don't like that term. I don't like being selfish. So this is a really difficult thing for me to get used to, and this is a really difficult thing for me to assert with the people in my life. The people who really matter have already been giving me a wide berth. It's the people that are sort of on the fringes of my life that seem to be judgmental or demanding of my time in some way or another. So the people who are closest to me, I think, understand how much this matters to me, because it matters to them. And I think those of you who are going through this process or helping your loved one go through this process, I think there is an equal amount of investment there, even if it doesn't seem like there is. Your significant other may not have gone through law school with you, but they understand that this is an important and critical step, and I think they are invested in your success. And that, to me, more than anything, is this time around I am surrounding myself with people who are invested in my success and who are adamant that they are not going to try to pull me away for their own selfish reasons. So that has been really, really helpful. On a substantive level, sorry, I have to move this so I can actually see what time this is. On a substantive level, I've covered torts and contracts this week. Torts have been a lot of practice questions, and I'm all over the board. So I'm anywhere from a 48% to a 78% in terms of the practice questions that I've been doing on torts. Some of the hardest things for me right now are actual and proximate cause, which I think are difficult for everybody. And for whatever reason, intentional and negligent infliction of emotional harm seems to be a certain problem area for me, as well as strict liability. So that sort of leaves the other intentional torts I'm doing okay on. And negligence, for the most part, if it's not causation, I'm doing pretty well with it. I'm doing good at identifying duties and breach and things like that. So, but this morning, I was doing a lot of torts questions, and I was going along doing an open book, actually, which I can't necessarily recommend yet because it is actually much more frustrating for me. I think I was doing a little bit better going through the questions without looking up the rules and going in that direction. I understand the sort of rationale for doing it that way, and that is sort of train your brain to start thinking about those rules and applying those rules correctly and enforcing good mental muscle memory instead of bad mental muscle memory. But I found that I was doing worse on the questions, and I don't even know if maybe the questions are just harder or what. So I got through about half of those today, about 18 or 19 of the 36 I was going to be doing. So I'm going to finish those up later this evening and see how I do. Contracts was hilarious. The Barbary lecturer for it was pretty awesome, and he has a mnemonic that actually has stuck with me in terms of an approach for contracts. So we'll see how I do on some of the testing for that. I just finished an essay for contracts, and I feel okay about it, but I feel like there's a lot of history with contracts, even though I worked very heavily in contracts for 3.5 years, analyzing them and writing them and whatever else. There's a lot of insecurity that goes along with contracts just because I had a really bad law school contracts experience. And I'm sure that that professor would be rolling in his grave if he knew that I had been working in contracts for the last 3.5 years. So I'm having to reconcile those two things together. And so contracts, while it shouldn't seem this way, is actually somewhat of a difficult subject for me. And on top of that, I found that this week it has been really hard for me to motivate myself to do any essays. I don't know why. I don't know why essays are sort of my difficult area right now. I'd rather do thousands of multiple choice questions than tackle any of the essays. So far, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on the essays that have been graded, so I'm encouraged by that. But I think my other issue is that I'm just a little scared. I've been away from actually writing about the law for so long that I'm a little intimidated by setting out the legal analysis. And while IRAC comes very, very naturally to me, IRAC, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, it's sort of the basic formula for any legal writing. Even though that comes very easily to me, it's been a little bit of a practice run to try and get it to go again. And so I'm trying to kind of speed that up and not be as scared of it. But essays are something that I run toward, and then I stop. And I stop because it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so I'm having to sort of work through some emotional clearing techniques in order to make sure that the essays flow a little bit better than they have been. So that has been week 2 in a nutshell. I actually need to go back and finish up some assignments in wills and trusts, especially trusts, because trust is something I don't understand. Wills make a little bit more sense to me, although I will say that it was a little bit difficult to read wills, knowing that my family, at least on the East Coast, is having to deal with that right now with my brother. So, very personal journey, I am sure. I do want to come back at the end of the week. This is Thursday, so I'll come back maybe Friday or Saturday and talk a little bit more about the week and sort of some of the strategies that I've had the last few days to both support myself and honor my way of learning. So that'll be probably the next video and at the end of this week. So thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.